Hello everybody, Old Gamer Joe back with another Media Moogle review, and I have been battling my way through the seedy, monster-infested stations of Dead or School, which has just recently come out on the Nintendo Switch, and I am playing the PlayStation 4 version. This game was developed by Studio Nanafushi and published by Marvelous. This game had previously been released on Steam early of June last year, but now console players are left out no longer, and it is a 2.5D Metroidvania-ish style game with a lot of action where you play as a young girl named Hisako who is basically trapped underground for all of her life, the duration of her life. She has no recollection of what life is like above ground because a zombie infestation has taken over Tokyo, which is the city where this game takes place. And so after hearing a story from her grandmother about how children used to frolic and play at schoolyards, she puts on her grandmother's old school uniform and decides that she wants to achieve that dream, not live in this underground wasteland any longer, and be reinserted into society and restore the world away from the zombies, and hopefully restore the city to a point where people can enjoy it once again. You'll spend the majority of the game navigating these different subway systems, which are completely infested with a bunch of monsters, slashing, shooting, and jumping your way through the action, gaining levels, grinding out for money, and getting a lot of different weapons in this game. You can actually store 3 different kinds of attack weapons at once. You have a sword attack, a secondary fire, and then a third weapon, which is typically a giant rocket launcher type device that can do serious heavy damage but is obviously limited in ammo. Switching between all the different types of weapons you have available to you is actually paramount to your success in this game and allows for some really cool strategy into what would otherwise be a pretty simplistic system. I found myself often using the sword and then quickly switching to the gun in order to hit some enemies that might be off into the distance, and it's a constant game of switcheroo, making use of all of the different weapons, and there's also a lot of customization that you can do to said weapons, including upgrades and giving them little perks and stat boosts, but also there's such a wide variety to all of the different weapons that you don't find yourself bored with them because there is so many different types and so many different ways to customize them. It's a whole lot of fun, and it's definitely the strong point of Dead or School. There are also a bunch of little offbeat side quests for you to take, which usually have you rescuing someone who typically agrees with your plight and wants to also escape. They get on board with your mission and they follow you even though you never actually get to play as anyone else. You do end up assembling a group of, I guess you could call them party members, but mostly they are there for dialogue and humor reasons. But the weapon customization is really the heart of the game, and it has you mix and matching a bunch of different segments to make a weapon that really caters to what you are looking for. Everything from sniper rifles to very heavy axes. It's all here and it's all a blast to play around with. I can also appreciate that Dead or School doesn't lock you out of any content depending on what difficulty you play at, so it is very friendly as far as that goes. If you want to play on normal, which is a fair challenge and can be difficult at points but is never quite overbearing, you can. But if you want to switch to easy, you won't be penalized, and it will allow you to continue to progress through some of the harder areas that you might have trouble with. So I can really appreciate that about the game, and for folks that want a super difficult challenge, there's also a hard option. So the game is great at catering to people's needs as far as difficulty goes. Control-wise, switching between your weapons actually feels pretty natural after a while too. You switch between all 3 using the R1 button, and you shoot and aim with the R2 and the stick combination. Also, as you unlock more skills through leveling up, you'll get other cool abilities, mostly which pertain to using the L2 button, and they allow for some cool combos. You can also sort of directionalize your attacks using the stick while you swing your swords. So it's really cool, really simple, but not overly complicated either, so I really do like the combat in this game a lot. You will come across save points, which will restore your health and fill all your bullets, which, by the way, your sword and your guns can eventually run out during a battle, though they will always recharge at a save point. You have to also take that into account. It's a little bit of a strategy game in some regards because of that. Graphically, however, I don't think the main gameplay in this title looks particularly great. The textures are sort of low res. I'm definitely not a fan of the view that they decided to stay within this game for 80 to 90% of it, because it's super zoomed out and you kind of miss out on some of the finer details that I feel like exist in the enemies and in your lead character as well. So that's a little bit disappointing, but I have to say I am a sucker for anime and I love anime art, and this game really stylistically does a lot of great things too, like some cutscenes that kind of weave their way into the gameplay. I really loved when the game took chances like that. It was very stylistic and very impressive, and in the storyboard segments of the game, which is the majority of where the cutscenes are told, they actually have great big lush art pieces that look quite nice, as in something you would see in a visual novel type game. But on the flip side of that, the performance was a little janky in spots for me, with the frame rate never feeling like a fluid 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 4 version, and sometimes I feel like even below 30 frames per second when graphical effects would go on screen. Thankfully, it's never game-breaking, but it is a little bit annoying. What's not annoying, however, is the game's soundtrack, which is really a hodgepodge of a bunch of different genres, but I enjoyed every piece that I came across. I would say on the whole it's a rocking soundtrack, but there's also some techno slowed down beats to it as well, and some epic orchestral strings, so it's really all over the place, but there's some nice compositions and some really good musical tracks that do fit the scenario that you're in quite well for the most part. So overall, Dead or School is a game that favors style over graphical fidelity and performance. That said, this is a lengthy journey that will keep you on your toes for a long time. It is 30 to 40 hours of gameplay here, so you will be busy. As long as you like the gameplay, you're going to get your money's worth in this title. And for me, that's where the real fun of this game was, in killing stuff with different methods and different approaches. Action and anime and Metroidvania fans are going to have a really good time with this one. If you can forgive some of its graphical shortcomings, you will find that Dead or School is a surprisingly intricate and deep title with an interesting, though kind of silly story and a lot of great fun action that will keep players busy and reward them with a very satisfying conclusion. For more on Dead or School or any of our other content, please head over to MediaMoogle.net, where we have some wonderful podcasts like the Gamer Joe Radio Show. And if you've enjoyed our video content today, hit the subscribe button below. It helps us so much. Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you soon.